Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I had such a good time making the video that I made over here yesterday and sitting outside and just kind of doing a story time that I'm going to be doing more of that over here. But today I wanted to just do some meditation since I didn't do that yesterday, and I know a lot of people really like the meditations. I have to tell you, a couple days ago, I don't know which day it was, I filmed a video and I read two of these in here. I don't know which ones they were. One was about negativity, but I read two of the readings from Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, and it's all small stuff. Now remember that, don't sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff. I recorded this whole video and I really liked the ones that I read. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Anyway, after I was trying to get my videos up before Alex came home from work so that he could like just relax when he came home and stuff, you know? And I had like one memory card in my camera and I was like trying to get it ready for my vlog later that night. You okay, buddy? Come over here, come on. And I was trying, yay, Tucker. And I was trying to get it ready for, you know, my vlog, and just because I set my camera out with like try to get my batteries charged and whatever. And so somehow along the way, like I got my memory cards mixed up and I deleted, because I go in and I delete everything off my memory card, which is probably stupid, but I'm a clean up as you go kind of person. And so oh, it just jumped off. And so, anyway, I deleted the entire video that I literally had just filmed, and I was like, okay, I'm not refilming this right now, because I had just gone through and read and one of them was about negativity, and I might go in here at some point and read it again, but it was really, really good. So practice ignoring your negative thoughts. You can even see there's a check mark on it at the top. But it was a really good meditation. I'm not going to read from this book today, but I am going to read from a couple other meditation books. So, don't sweat the small stuff. It's all small stuff. And you know, what's interesting is, you know, even 5 years ago, I think, if that had happened, I would have been like, damn it. Like, seriously, like, I can't believe this happened. Like, I would have let that, like, stress me out for the day. And I just don't go there anymore. I'm just kind of like, you know what? It is what it is. It happened. It's not that big of a deal. Let's move on to the next thing and let's just enjoy our day and enjoy our life, you know? And I try not to let those little small things, like the spilt milk kind of issues, I used to let the spilt milk issues really just overtake me, you know? And my old sponsor, you know, he used to say, I talked about this on here the other day, you know, he used to say to me, you know, like, you cannot do anything about something that happened 20 seconds before or 2 minutes before or 10 years ago. You can't do anything about that, right? Like, so it's about let's move forward and then let's learn from that. But I used to be somebody that would be constantly in the spilt milk, you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And frantic about that stuff. My mother was somebody that actually was very much like that too. And, this is just like one simple observation, but like, or one simple story, but I can remember going over to my aunt's house, and I think it was like probably Easter or something, but it was slick in her driveway because of the ice. Like we had some ice or whatever, so I'm assuming it was probably early. We still have some, you know, ice and snow at Easter sometimes in Indiana, and my mom was always in charge of bringing the deviled eggs, and I mean, in retrospect, it's kind of a funny story, but it wasn't at the time. And my mom was always in charge of bringing the deviled eggs and the rolls. Those were her two things. And my mom even had, I have it in there, okay? She even had a deviled egg tray that like has a space for each egg in it. This old one, it's like green and stuff. It's very cool. So she was holding onto my arm, but she kind of like started to like slip a little bit as we were walking into my aunt's house. And she kind of lost her, you know, steadiness, and she went like that, and literally all the eggs, because, you know, she just had like a little bit of saran wrap on top of it because we were just going from the car to the house. Literally all the eggs just went, like, she didn't drop the plate, but the eggs just flew out, you know, and it was, and I mean to tell you, it like, she allowed it to like ruin her day. My aunt was like, just let it go. Like, we're fine without deviled eggs. I worked so hard on those deviled eggs, and blah, blah, blah. It was just such a mess, you know, and my mom was somebody that would always allow that kind of stuff, just like every little detail. My cousin and I, we talk about that, how both of our mothers, and I don't know if it was something that came from their childhood where they needed to have this perfection. I think a lot of us that are perfectionists are people that came from chaos. Now, I know that I know it wouldn't appear to be this way, but I am a perfectionist in many areas of my life. My battery died right in the middle of me talking about perfectionism and control, right? And I'm like rotating batteries out. I found another charger that I had, and so I'm like rotating them in and out, and it's like there's only a little bit of juice on each battery, and I'm trying to get my videos made for today. It is what it is. It couldn't come in a more perfect meditation though, right? Than don't sweat the small stuff. But anyway, anyway, I was talking about how, like, I think many of us that come from chaos, right? Like, if we grew up in homes of chaos, I think perfectionism is a way of, you know, and order is a way of control. To control whatever little small area that you have. And I know that that is definitely something that I experienced when I was a kid. Whether it was, I can remember when I first started ironing my pants, and I would like have to iron the lines in my pants. And I even got like, I can remember becoming kind of infatuated with ironing, which is so funny. But it was because my mom and I, we had read this book, A Tree Grows in Brooklyn by Betty Smith. It's a fantastic book. I actually want to reread it because I haven't read it since I was a little kid. And then we watched the movie. And I don't remember if we read the whole book and then watched the movie or if we just read part of the book. I don't remember. But anyway. But I loved this little, you know, family that lived in this New York apartment, and they were very, very poor, and the mother took in like laundry. And so like that was when I started like learning how to iron and stuff. And I can remember like I would iron like our sheets, and I would iron like pillow. I was obsessed with ironing, you know. But I can also remember how much like I really liked to see like the order of it all, you know. And that's always been something that I've had in my life. And I've talked about that, you know, obsessiveness in my other videos as well. So I think, you know, also not allowing yourself to give in to a lot of that stress sometimes. And it's been something I've had to work against, you know, my entire life, you know, and I will probably continue to work. Thankfully, today I have tools and skills for that. But it's something that I have worked, you know, against my entire life. So anyway, let's go in and let's, this shirt has fuzzies all over it. Let's go into the Daily Book of Positive Quotations and let's see what it has to say for today, May 14th. May 14th, what we do. Where I was born and where and how I have lived is unimportant. It is what I have done with where I have been. Hold on. This video literally does not want to be made, okay? It's just like one thing after another. Don't sweat the small stuff, right? Okay. It was my husband calling. May 14th, what we do. Where I was born and where and how I have lived is unimportant. It is what I have done with where I have been that should be of interest. Georgia O'Keeffe. Some people we know are always telling new acquaintances where they were born, where they went to college, where they live now, as if these things were evidence of their importance. But what have they really done? A degree from the most prestigious university doesn't make anyone a success. Being born into a family of accomplishment may be an advantage, but it doesn't guarantee success. If I'm tempted to try to impress someone with my personal background, I'll stop and ask myself why I think it matters. Instead of trying to impress with my history, I will try to let people know who I am and what I stand for. I think it's a really interesting meditation. I remember having this conversation with a friend of mine years ago, you know. And he said to me, he traveled a lot, somebody that traveled a lot. And he said, you know what's really interesting to me is that in the United States, when you meet somebody new, you'll say, oh, where are you from? What do you do? And we always ask somebody, what do you do? Like for a living, for a career, right? And he said, you know, when he would travel in Europe specifically, that, you know, he would meet people and they would say things like, you know, like, they would talk about art or they would talk about music. They didn't really go to this, Tucker just started playing with this toy that we reviewed in our last, in our review video that we just did, and I'm loving it so much. But anyway, he's so sweet. He's like pushing it across the floor, little guy. But we don't ask people like who they are. Now he's jumped up here. We don't ask somebody like who they are, what they stand for, things like that, what they love, what kind of music. We don't ask them about their interests typically, you know? And I don't know if that is just a United States thing, but I started like noticing that when I would be introduced to people, either they would ask me that question or I would ask them that question. And I think it's, you know, out of not really knowing what to talk to people about. And I think to some degree we're trained in our society to say, oh, where are you from? Like, if I meet people in Indianapolis, like this is literally the conversation. Because a lot of people just stand there and they won't like talk. And I have so much social anxiety anyway that I just try to, you know, if I'm asking questions, I'm better off, right? Especially if I'm like, we'll go out to dinner with somebody and it's like, you know, two couples or something like that. And it's like, I don't know the other guy and I'm standing there while Alex is like, you know, chatting with, you know, the wife or whatever. And I'll be like, so, you know, like, are you from Indianapolis? Yes. Where, really? Did you grow up here? Mm-hmm. Where'd you go to high school? And then they'll tell me and I'll be like, oh, did you go to school? Did you go to college here? Mm-hmm. Where'd you go to college? And then I'm like, oh, so what do you do for a living? And they tell me something, which means absolutely nothing to me whatsoever. It's like, you know, I'm in sales and digital something, and it means nothing to me. It's just like, you know, it goes right over my head. And I'm like, oh, okay. so what kind of art do you like? You know, it's like, I don't ever think about that, right? But it's like, really, when you think about it, to some degree, a little bit, okay, of where we came from, our family, you know, like the school we went to, some of that kind of defines us, but not really. I mean, it really doesn't. And, you know, if you put me and everybody that grew up in my neighborhood, went to the same schools and had similar families, we are so completely different that it really doesn't define anything about us at all. And what's more interesting, what somebody's music they listen to, what kind of art they look at, what kind of books they read. I mean, that's a big one for me. I do ask people, like, do you read? Like, what kind of books do you like to read and stuff like that? Which is always interesting to me because I'll ask people, I'll be like, oh, so do you like to, you know, like, what are things you like to do? You know, whatever. Oh, you know, do you like to read? I'm like a big reader, I'll always say. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, I like to read. And I'll be like, oh, so, like, who are some of your favorite authors? And they just look at me like I'm stupid or something. You know, like, they don't have it, like, they're like, what? Like, what do you mean, favorite authors, you know? It's hard to have conversations with people, isn't it? I have learned that it is so hard to have conversations with people. But I don't know, maybe if we talked more about the things that really matter. And I think that's why with the friends that I have, we tend to talk about the things that I feel like matter. You know, Tanya and I, we haven't done it in 2 months now, but when we drive around and get fountain pops, we talk about things that matter. Even if they're things that make us laugh, and we're, you know, we always joke that we're solving the world's problems, you know, in my car, driving around for an hour. But that's kind of how I mean, we talk about all kinds of things, you know? And I love the fact that she and I, for 23 years, have been best friends, and we've had very different opinions at times on different things, right? But we've never been like, well, if you don't agree with me, then screw you, you know, unfriend me, like on Facebook, you know? We've been very courteous of each other's opinions and beliefs, and some like, well, explain to me why you feel that way, you know? Or, you know, Tanya might say to me something like, well, I understand that you feel that way, but as a woman, she might, you know, share something, and I might say, well, okay, and like on a different issue, I might say, well, I understand why you feel that way, but as a gay man, and she'll say, you know what, I never really thought of it that way. You know what I mean? Like, so we share our experiences with each other, or we will bring in our family or things that we've learned, you know, as we've grown up. And it's just, that to me is such an amazing friendship that you're able to have that conversation. I want to have conversations with my friends, you know? I miss the days when I was like, and this was back when I was drinking and stuff, but maybe not, maybe some after that too. In my apartment, when I would light incense and all kinds of candles, you know, and we would play music back in the day, the Cranberries or something like that in the background, you know, and we would just sit there and have like deep intellectual, we would talk about anything for hours. Do you remember that? We don't do that anymore. Like, I miss that, you know. That's why I have 5 channels, I guess. So that was a great meditation. Okay, I'm going to go into, it's a good reminder. It's a good reminder for me. I'm going to go into the Melody Beatty book, Journey to the Heart, Daily Meditations for On the Path to Freeing Your Soul. I love this book so much. And it opened right to May 14th. Stay open to surprise. On my journey, I have often been surprised, sometimes pleasantly surprised. Some of the places I was told to visit, places I was told would bring me joy, didn't. Occasionally, they left me cold and confused. I would reach out to grasp something from an experience only to find it wasn't there, at least not for me. I was left wondering why it didn't work, why it didn't feel right for me, or why it didn't do for me what others said it did for them. Then other places, other experiences, the ones I had the least expectations of, surprised me. They riveted my soul, opened my heart, touched me, changed me in ways I didn't expect, in ways that still surprised me. To have certain expectations is natural, but stay open to surprise. Don't let your dreams and expectations color what you know to be true for you. Trust your perceptions. Trust how a thing feels to you. If you expected something to work and it didn't, trust that. If something has opened your heart and produced growth, love, and joy, trust that. Don't let your expectations or prejudices color and distort your experience. You may be pleasantly surprised to find joy where you least expected it. I love that. As somebody that has spent much of my life having pretty high expectations for people and things, I've worked really, really hard in the last 5 years to lower my expectations to some people and some things to having no expectations whatsoever. And you know, you would think that that would kind of be, I don't know, a sad reality to say I don't have any expectations. But for me, you know, when I look at resentments, and resentments to me are defined by an unfulfilled expectation. It's when I thought somebody or something should have turned out the way that it didn't, you know, or turned out a different way than I thought it should, which means that my expectations are leading me to the point of being disappointed or having a resentment. And for me, resentments are the number one offender. They're going to get me back to drinking. They're going to get me back to negative thoughts. They're going to get me, you know, to a point of where I'm just not in healthy thinking anymore. So I can't have resentments in my life. And if I can't have resentments, of which I get from time to time and I work through, but the best way for me to get rid of resentments is to never have them to begin with, which means to not set too high expectations for things. And, you know, for me, I was talking about this trip that I went on last night when I was a kid. It was like when I was 15. I went on this trip with my mom and one of her really good friends and her friend's daughter. And the four of us went to Beaver Island, which is where my mom's best friend, her entire life, Diane, lived. And I was talking about, you know, like, you don't know in the moment that you're experiencing something that when you look back on it, it will be this really fond memory. I mean, I don't, like, I'm sitting here and I'm thinking of, like, some of my, like, best moments. I don't know why, like, it's like this moment that I had that, like, Tanya and I, one night, we were laughing so hard because she had bought that game, Headbands, you know, where you, like, put, like, now they have it on a phone, but you put it, like, on your head, and then the other person has to guess what it is. Well, back in the day, we had 8 people sitting around a bonfire playing games, you know, and it was just Tanya and I. We were, like, looking at each other on our back patio, and just the ridiculousness of it, that it had been reduced to, I mean, I'm thinking about it now, it's just so funny, you know, but, like, all of these moments that just flashed through my head, these really great moments, were moments that I literally had no expectations for, you know? When I go into a trip or when I go into a holiday, I used to have such high expectations for, like, Christmas. And then I can remember I would be so excited, so excited, so excited. And then, like, the evening of Christmas Day, I would get so sad. I would just be so sad that it was all over, you know? And I'm not talking about just when I was a kid. I was talking about when I was an adult, too. You know, I'd grow up and I'd just be like, I'm so completely sad. Like, it's all over now. All this that we got excited about, you know? I don't do that anymore. I really try to just appreciate each day as it comes and make the most of it and not have super high expectations, you know? You know, we were supposed to go on 2 trips in the last month and a half, which is more than most people get to go on, and I feel very blessed for that. We were supposed to go to Miami for a music festival, and we were supposed to be leaving yesterday for Las Vegas for another music festival, which I wasn't going to go to, but Alex was, and we had to cancel both trips, obviously. And, you know, at first I was kind of, like, disappointed. I was kind of like, I can't believe that we can't go anywhere, you know, whatever. And then over time, I was like, I've saved a lot of money by not going. You know, we can enjoy our time here and, you know, have a great summer. Alex and I talked yesterday about not traveling, you know, and, like, having, which we may, I don't know what's going to happen down the road, you know. We may change our minds, but, you know, to get to a place of acceptance and gratitude for what you have, you know, that I wasn't sad anymore, you know. Like, we were supposed to go with our friends Melissa and Jason to Vegas, and Melissa texted us, because we're on this huge group text, and she said, don't look at the weather in Vegas. And, you know, I wasn't even really upset about not going anymore. I was like, I'm so thankful that we're all healthy, you know, and she was just, you know, joking about it. But she actually had a meet and greet with Lady Gaga, so she's got more to lose than I did. I was just going to lay by a pool and play some slots, you know. But anyway, you know, I'm just super grateful for what I have today. And, you know, and it's about taking, like, each moment and just really, really appreciating it, you know, and not setting your expectations too high for the day to come or the week to come or any kind of vacation. And, you know, the other thing I have to say, too, is that, are you ever pleasantly surprised by people? Like, I love when you're pleasantly surprised by somebody, right? Like, when somebody does something that is so nice or so kind or so positive or so good. Like, I love the word good. We don't use that word enough, you know? And when somebody is just such a good person and it, like, surprises you because it wasn't what your expectation of that person was or would be, you know? And I love that when people pleasantly surprise me or pleasantly turn out to be somebody that I didn't expect them to be. I love that, you know? I love that about people. And I love to stay open, you know, to the wonderment of the world and to hopefully continue to be surprised on a daily basis. You know, like, it's so funny because Alex's friend Sarah, she bought us this squirrel table, and I become, like, obsessed with it. Like, I went and I, like, you know, bought all these seeds and stuff on Amazon, and corn for the squirrels, and stuff for the backyard because I want to watch these animals, and I become, like, really, really obsessed with, like, watching these animals, and I find such enjoyment off of it. It really simplifies my life and my day, you know, and I think that's for me, you know, like, I could sit here and complain about all the things I can't do, and I could sit here and complain about all the things I'm unable to do. But, you know, like, I feel so blessed that, like, I get to sit at home and make videos and look at squirrels and hang out with my dogs. Right? We don't set our expectations too high today, do we, bud? He said, I don't know about you. He goes, but I got pretty high expectations for everyone. Anyway, let me know what you think about those meditations in the comments section below. That was kind of all over the way. That was kind of like a beautiful mess, wasn't it? Anyway, well, not really beautiful, but I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.